Well, that's it. Everyone died and they're not coming back. I think it's time to look at the last 10 years of the MCU and see how far we've come. What do you mean? Another Avengers movie's coming out? Okay, all right, hold on. I think we can all agree that at the end of the next Avengers movie, everyone's going to come back to life and they're going to make MCU movies forever. So if you don't have time to watch every Marvel movie before Captain Marvel and Endgame graces the big screen, or you just haven't been keeping up, allow us a few minutes of your time to catch you up on everything. We're going to try and do this as best as we can in chronological order, so if I miss something, please don't get mad. It's 1942 and the world is at war. Johann Schmidt, head of the Nazi science division known as Hydra, which is actually an ancient death cult, has been searching for the Tesseract, a powerful artifact that supposedly was a gift from the Norse gods. Schmidt plans on using the Tesseract to create weapons for Hydra so that they may rule the world. Meanwhile, in New York, a young Steve Rogers is trying desperately to enlist in the army. Due to his frail physical health, however, he has been declined. Eventually, a defected German scientist named Dr. Erskine takes note of his determination and offers him the chance to take part in the super soldier program. Steve is selected and meets the beautiful Agent Peggy Carter and is turned into the peak of human performance. Unfortunately, the Doctor is then killed and Steve is the only superhuman created. Originally seen as useless because why would the army want a guy who can rip off a car door to fight in the war, Steve is little more than a stage show used to sell war bonds. He eventually proves himself by sneaking behind enemy lines to free POWs from the grasp of Johann Schmidt. When confronted by Schmidt, Steve discovers that he was also given the super soldier serum, and he has been transformed into the villainous Red Skull. After freeing the POWs, Steve puts together his own special commando unit, including his best friend, Bucky Barnes, and they make it their mission to stop Hydra. Things go horribly wrong during the mission, and it involves a train. Bucky is lost and he's presumed dead, but for everyone who knows about the character, remember Bucky Barnes, because he's going to become important later. Over time, Steve discovers Schmidt's plan is to bomb several major cities in the United States, and after a large battle, Steve manages to get aboard his plane, fight the Red Skull, and defeat him. Realizing the only way to save New York is to put the plane into the water, Steve gets on the radio with Peggy and asks her to save him a dance as the plane goes down. Captain America is lost and presumed dead. Tech billionaire Tony Stark is in Afghanistan for a weapons demonstration with the US Army. His convoy is attacked and he's taken captive by a terrorist cell known as the Nine Rings. Tony's life is saved by fellow captive Yinsen when he builds an electromagnet and straps it to his chest, which stops the shrapnel in his chest from reaching his heart. Tony agrees to build weapons for the terrorists to buy time, while he really begins to build a suit of armor that will allow him to escape. After Yinsen gives his life so that Tony can finish, he uses the armor to break free from the terrorist cell, eventually being rescued by the military. Back in the States, Tony now realizes what his company's weapons are doing around the world, and he calls for Stark Industries to stop manufacturing them. He begins to build his second suit of armor so that he may take a more direct approach in defending the people. It's discovered that his father's former friend and business partner, Obadiah Stane, has been selling their weapons to terrorists all along. Stane finds Tony's original armor, bringing it back to the States, and he upgrades it, becoming the villain Ironmonger. The two fight with Iron Man, winning, and instead of covering up what he did, Tony holds a press conference, declaring to the world,
"I am Iron Man."
Arriving home that night, Tony is met by Nick Fury, head of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he wants to talk to him about a team that he's putting together. Bruce Banner is on the run after he was exposed to gamma radiation. Now, whenever he becomes angry, he transforms into the Incredible Hulk. Some people want to weaponize the Hulk, and Bruce is laying low in Brazil, trying to come up with a cure. Bruce is discovered when a sample of his blood gets into a soda in a bottling plant that he works at, and it gets shipped to the US. When Thunderbolt Ross sends in a paramilitary team, Bruce ends up turning into the Hulk, destroying things and escaping. To combat the Hulk, the leader of this team, Blonsky, volunteers to be injected with a sample of the super serum. which gives him enhanced reflexes and strength. Bruce travels to America where he's reunited with his girlfriend and Ross's daughter, Betty. The two of them meet with a contact of Bruce's who believes that he has a cure. After Ross takes Bruce and Betty into custody, Blonsky injects himself with Bruce's blood, transforming into the Abomination, and he begins to destroy Harlem. The Hulk is the only one who can stop the Abomination now, and Ross releases him, transforming into the Incredible Hulk. Bruce faces off against the Abomination, defeating him, and in the aftermath, Bruce manages to slip away, going back on the run. At some point, Ross is then approached by Tony Stark in a bar to discuss a little team that they're putting together. Everyone knows that Tony Stark is now Iron Man after his press conference. Seeing this on the news, a Russian named Ivan Ivanko sees a chance to get back at the son of Howard Stark, the man who stole his father's ideas and destroyed his career. Ivan begins to build tech of his own. Meanwhile, the US government is demanding that Tony hand over his Iron Man suit. Refusing to allow his creation to become a weapon, Tony turns them down. What people don't know is that Tony is dying. The power core that he uses to keep the shrapnel away from his heart is slowly poisoning him. Realizing that he doesn't have much time left, Tony becomes more erratic and less involved in the day-to-day operations of Stark Industries, going so far as to name Pepper Potts the new CEO. He also hires a new PA named Natalie Rushman as his new assistant because she's pretty. During a Grand Prix race, Tony is attacked by Ivan Vanko, who has created his arc whips out of Tony's tech. Iron Man defeats Vanko and sends him to prison. However, Vanko is quickly broken out of prison by Justin Hammer, a competitor of Stark, and he's hired to make the new Iron Man type suits. Vanko sees this as a second opportunity for revenge and instead designs drones to fight against Iron Man. Due to his behavior, Colonel James Rhodes, Tony's friend and military liaison, deems him unfit to be Iron Man and takes the suit of armor by force, delivering it to the US Army. At this time, Tony is visited once more by Nick Fury, who informs him that 1. Natalie Rushman is actually Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, and 2. Howard Stark was a founding member of S.H.I.E.L.D. 3. They also have some of Howard's old work that might cure what's killing Tony. Tony ends up curing himself, realizing that Vanko is free and is going to attack the Stark Expo, a big convention to show off New World tech. So he hops into his armor and he heads off to save the day. Tony and Rhodey, now in his War Machine armor, work together, defeating Vanko's drones and the man himself in his own armor, and save everyone. Oh, and the Black Widow shows up, and it's awesome. In ancient times, the armies of Asgard and the Frost Giants have fought a terrible war. Finally victorious, Odin discovered a small baby, and he takes him in and raises him on his own, naming him Loki. Decades later, Odin's other son, Thor, is about to be crowned the king of Asgard. The ceremony is interrupted when it is discovered that the Frost Giants have broken into the castle and are attempting to steal the Casket of Ancient Winters, a Frost Giant super weapon. Thor, Loki, Sif, and the Warriors 3 all head over to Jotunheim to wreck house in retaliation. Angered by his son's behavior and attitude, Odin exiles him to Earth, placing a spell on his mystical hammer so that the only one who can lift it has to be worthy. Hilarity ensues when Thor meets Jane Foster, Darcy, and Dr. Selvig. He learns what it means to be human, normal, and worthy in a span of a few days. And when he discovers where Mjolnir fell on Earth, he tries to lift it, but he's still not worthy, so he's unable. Also, Clint Barton is there and decides not to shoot him, so that's nice. Back in Asgard, Loki discovers that he is really a frost giant confronting Odin. Distressed, Odin falls into the Odin sleep, and Loki becomes the king of Asgard. As one could presume, he's not very good at it. Loki decides that he's going to destroy both Jotunheim and his brother Thor, sending the destroyer to Earth. Finally becoming worthy by sacrificing himself to save others, Thor regains Mjolnir and defeats the destroyer, stopping Loki. Unfortunately, Loki destroys the Bifrost, stranding Thor on Asgard before seemingly slipping away into the nothingness of space. In the end, Thor is trapped on Asgard with the beautiful Sif, unable to return to Jane Foster, who he fell in love with in the span of a day or so. Dr. Selvig is then approached by Nick Fury, who shows him the Tesseract and tells him it has unlimited power. Captain America has been found, frozen in the ice and thawed out. Dr. Selvig is working for S.H.I.E.L.D., experimenting on the Tesseract. Suddenly, Loki arrives, begins to brainwash everyone with the power of the magical spear that he has, and those brainwashed include Clint Barton and Dr. Selvig. The three of them steal the Tesseract and blow up the S.H.I.E.L.D. base. Nick Fury's kind of pissed, and he puts together the Avengers, which include Captain America, Tony Stark, Black Widow, and Bruce Banner. After easily defeating Loki in Germany, the group is attacked by Thor, who isn't trapped on Asgard anymore, and he's trying to bring his brother in to stand trial for his crimes. They fight a little bit, everyone hugs it out, and they bring Loki back to the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. On the helicarrier, the team discovers that S.H.I.E.L.D. plans on using the Tesseract to create weapons just like Hydra did back in World War II, and they're not happy. Suddenly, as if on cue, Loki's small army of brainwashed people show up. Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk, he fights Thor, eventually falls out of the helicarrier. Natasha fights Clint, managing to smack him on the head hard enough that he snaps out of the brainwashing, and Loki escapes, but not before killing Agent Coulson, everybody's favorite S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. This pisses everyone off, and the rest of the team, now including Hawkeye, steal a Quinjet to go and stop Loki in New York. Arriving in New York, the Avengers discover that Loki has been using the Tesseract to open up a portal, and a large alien army known as the Chitauri begin to invade New York City. The team begin to kick alien butt, causing massive amounts of collateral damage. The Hulk then shows up and punches an alien space bug in the face, and it's awesome! While the Avengers are holding their own against the threat, the shadowy government people behind S.H.I.E.L.D. don't think they'll win. They launch a nuke at New York City. Iron Man grabs that nuke, redirects it towards the portal in the sky, which he manages to fly through. The missile hits the Chitauri forces, and Tony falls back gracefully through the portal just as Natasha closes it. The team saves the day, and they get shawarma. In the blackness of space, it's revealed that the person behind everything was none other than the pruny-chinned individual, Thanos. After the Battle of New York, Tony is suffering from PTSD. To cope, he begins to spend most of his time upgrading his suits to better protect him and his girlfriend, Pepper Potts, who now runs Stark Industries. Pepper is approached by Aldrich Killian, a scientist that Tony had previously turned away about investing in new tech. After his friend and bodyguard Happy is injured during a terrorist attack by a group run by the Mandarin, Tony issues a challenge to the Mandarin, telling him his address. Accepting the challenge, the Mandarin attacks and destroys Tony's super sweet house. Tony manages to survive and escape in a suit of armor. Crashing in Tennessee, his suit loses power, and the rest of the world thinks that he died in the attack on his home. He investigates the bombings and discovers that it was really veterans who had been given an experimental treatment known as Extremis to grow back missing limbs. Instead, it's been causing some of them to explode and others to have really cool heat powers. Tony gets captured, discovers that the real Mandarin is actually Aldrich Killian, and he breaks free. He begins working alongside Rhodey, now in the Iron Patriot armor, and they end up defeating Killian. And they save the president. In the end, Tony blows up all of his armor to show Pepper that she is the only important thing in his life. Eons ago, the Dark Elf armies led by Malekith fought against the Asgard king Bor over the weapon known as the Aether. Malekith was captured and the Dark Elves escaped, locking themselves away in stasis. After the Bifrost was destroyed, the Nine Realms were locked in a war. With Loki captured, Thor leads the armies of Asgard in returning peace to all of the realms. An event known as the Convergence also grows near, when the realms become linked and the passages between the worlds grow thin. On Earth, Jane Foster has discovered one of these passages, and it takes her to the hidden location of the Aether. Bad luck! Not realizing what it is, she accidentally becomes infected with it, breaking it free! Thor realizes something is wrong with Jane, teleports to Earth, brings her back to Asgard. Somewhere out in space, Malekith awakens, sensing the Aether's power. The Dark Elves attack Asgard, and in the battle, Thor's mother is killed. Being desperate, Thor works alongside Loki to save Jane, and they travel to the Dark Elf homeworld. Luring Malekith there, they allow him to remove the Aether from Jane. Thor attempts to destroy the Aether once it's been freed, but fails. Loki is then killed by the Dark Elves. Now armed with the Aether, Malekith travels to Earth, where he uses the Convergence portals and the Aether to destroy all 9 realms in one attack. Thor arrives and battles the evil magician, defeating him. Later, Thor stands before Odin and informs him that he'll be returning to Earth with Jane Foster. And after he leaves, it's revealed that Odin is actually Loki in disguise. Thor's friends Volstagg and Sif take the Aether to be protected by the cosmic being known as the Collector. After their departure, he whispers that he just needs 4 more. Captain America is now working for S.H.I.E.L.D., acting with Black Widow and a strike team to keep the world safe. S.H.I.E.L.D. has started a new program to have helicarriers in the sky at all times, ready to strike anywhere and anyone with the push of a button. Cap disagrees with this, stating that it's ruling with fear. Agreeing with Cap, Fury tries to delay the project, and after an attempt on his life, he tries to hide in Steve's apartment, where he's killed by the Winter Soldier. Before he dies, Fury gives Steve a flash drive with evidence on it. When Steve is questioned by the new head of S.H.I.E.L.D., Alexander Pierce, he refuses to tell him any details about what Fury told him before his death. Steve is quickly branded a traitor and attacked by his former strike team. Cap beats the hell out of them in an elevator and escapes. Working alongside Black Widow, Steve discovers that Hydra has been working behind the scenes of S.H.I.E.L.D. and is secretly taken over. The two enlist with the aid of Sam Wilson, an Air Force para-rescue specialist who has a flight suit with wings, because don't they all? During their investigation, the group is attacked by the Winter Soldier, who is then revealed to be Bucky Barnes! Remember, I told you to remember that thing from the beginning of our video.
Who the hell is Bucky?
Steve's best friend, who was thought to have been killed during World War II, but he was recovered by Russians and turned into a perfect assassin with a metal arm! Cap, Black Widow, and Falcon finally assault the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters with a plan of destroying the helicarriers. Rallying the still loyal S.H.I.E.L.D. forces, the battle begins. Nick Fury, who isn't dead, shows up to help and leaks all of S.H.I.E.L.D. Hydra's secrets to the world. Cap faces Bucky in the end, managing to defeat him to stop the helicarriers, his mind now a mix of different memories. Bucky saves Steve from drowning, but disappears. Peter Quill watched his mother die when he was a young boy on Earth. Fleeing the hospital, he was abducted by an alien spacecraft, and now as an adult, he's an outlaw who calls himself Star-Lord. While hunting for an orb on an abandoned planet, he's attacked by the forces of Ronan, the Kree fanatic. Star-Lord manages to steal the orb and escape, not knowing that Ronan intended it for Thanos. Traveling to Xandar, Peter intends to sell the orb, but is instead attacked by Gamora, the daughter of Thanos, Rocket Raccoon, and Groot, bounty hunters who are trying to capture Peter. The four of them are arrested and brought to prison where they meet Drax. Drax also hates Ronan because he murdered his entire family. Also, Drax doesn't understand what a figure of speech is.
These people are completely literal. Metaphors are gonna go over his head.
Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it.
After the five of them break out, they travel to a floating celestial head city known as Nowhere in order to sell the orb to the Collector. Drax, being the genius that he is, informs Ronan that they are there for the orb, to lure him out so that they could kill him. Ronan, of course, shows up, kills a bunch of people, escapes with the orb with the intention of keeping it for himself and destroying Xandar with his new powers. Peter and the others make a deal with the Ravagers' leader, Yondu, the one who abducted Peter off Earth, to help them save Xandar and stop Ronan. Arriving on Xandar, there's an epic space battle. Peter and the others defeat Ronan, retrieve the orb, give it to the Nova Corps, which are basically galactic cops, and clear their names. And they head off into the galaxy after a dance-off to get into more trouble, now calling themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy. The Avengers have become a full-time team protecting the world from those who would do it harm. In Sokovia, they are attacking a Hydra stronghold where evil Baron Von Strucker has kept Loki's staff. Despite having to deal with other superpowered villains such as Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, the team manages to retrieve the staff, and upon their victory, they all head back to Avengers Tower for debriefing and cocktails. Tony and Bruce have the brilliant idea of using the staff to create an AI to protect the world. Ultron is created and kills off Jarvis before he can warn the rest of the team, who are celebrating with a party. Controlling some of Tony's Iron Legion robots, Ultron attacks the Avengers. He is defeated, but he does manage to escape via the internet. Taking control of the Hydra base in Sokovia, Ultron begins to build himself an army. In an effort to build himself a vibranium body, Ultron allies himself with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. The trio reach out to Ulysses Klaue in Wakanda to steal the metal. The Avengers arrive, fight, and they get their butts kicked when Scarlet Witch messes with their heads. Hulk goes crazy and Iron Man's forced to fight him, practically destroying an African city in the process. Because of all of this destruction, the world turns on the Avengers, who are then forced to lay low on Hawkeye's farm, where they meet his family. Nick Fury shows up and gives everyone a pep talk. The team heads out to stop Ultron from retrieving his new body. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver abandon Ultron when they realize that he's trying to destroy the human race. And with Ultron's new body in their possession, Tony decides that he hasn't messed with enough AIs and places the remaining Jarvis AI into the body, creating Vision, who has a cape because it looks cool. Now, with 3 new members, the Avengers head back to Sokovia, where Ultron has put giant rockets under the city to create a giant meteor that will wipe out the human race. The Avengers fight off Ultron's seemingly endless wave of robots while trying to evacuate the city. Unsurprisingly, the Avengers save the day and stop the world from ending. Also, Quicksilver dies. Hulk flies away in a Quinjet to try and hide from the world and the destruction that the Hulk has caused, and Vision destroys Ultron. With the Hulk missing, Tony decides that he also wants to take some time off. Captain America and Black Widow begin to train the new Avengers: War Machine, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, and Vision. Scott Lang finally gets out of prison with the hopes of reuniting with his daughter. Unfortunately, he is an ex-con who can't keep a job and decides to do one last score with his old friends. Breaking into a house that is supposed to have a massive safe, he discovers a strange suit instead of anything valuable. When he gets back to his apartment, he of course tries on the suit and it fits perfectly. Pressing the strange buttons on the suit, it causes him to shrink down, and hilarity ensues! Finally returning to his original size, he decides to re-break into the old house and return the suit. But he's instead arrested. While in prison, Scott is approached by Hank Pym, a scientist and former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who developed the Ant-Man suit. He believes that his company, which he no longer is a part of, developed a similar tech and is trying to sell it to terrorist organizations around the world. He needs Scott to break into the lab and destroy the new tech. Scott agrees, and we launch into a training montage where he learns to use the suit to its full potential and how to fight from Hank's beautiful daughter, Hope Van Dyne. Working alongside his hilarious ex-con friends, the whole gang breaks into Pym Labs. Scott is forced to fight the Yellow Jacket, who's using the same shrinking tech, who takes his daughter hostage. During the fight, Scott is forced to shrink down and travel through the quantum realm, where Hank's wife was lost decades ago. Scott manages to return, however, and Scott saves the day, becoming the father his daughter has always needed. And everyone lives happily ever after. Seeing Scott return to the quantum realm also fills Hank and his daughter with hope that their wife mother might still be alive. Also, they have a giant ant as a pet now. After the events in Sokovia involving Ultron, the world has begun to look a little less kindly on the superpowered beings that are protecting them. Members of the international government believe that these people need to be policed more closely. Tony Stark believes that this is a good thing. Steve Rogers does not. When a mission goes bad in Lagos, it is decided that the world has had enough. The Avengers arrive in Vienna to sign the Sokovia Accords, which will give the UN control over the team. While at the summit, an explosion goes off that kills T'Challa's father, the King of Wakanda. All of the evidence points to Steve Rogers' friend, Bucky Barnes, the assassin known as the Winter Soldier. Steve and Sam try to find Bucky before the police or Black Panther can. A big chase ensues and everyone eventually is arrested. Bucky is placed into a secured cell while everyone is brought in for questioning. Zemo sneaks in and uses old subliminal codes used by the Russians, brainwashing Bucky to break free and cause destruction in the base. Steve manages to free Bucky, and they learn that Zemo is going to release 5 more Winter Soldiers from a forgotten Hydra base. Knowing that they can't wait for UN approval, Steve assembles his own team of Bucky, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, and Ant-Man because he's awesome. Arriving at the airport, they are met by Tony's team, consisting of War Machine, Black Widow, Vision, Black Panther, and Spider-Man because he's awesome. The two teams fight it out, and the collateral damage is massive. Many expensive planes are destroyed. Cap and Bucky manage to escape during the fight to chase Zemo. Also, Rhodey is shot out of the sky and paralyzed by the accident. Cap and Bucky make it to the Hydra base where they are met by Tony, who followed them. They call a truce. They search for Zemo, and once they find him, he monologues for a bit. He reveals that his family was killed in Sokovia during the Ultron incident, and that Bucky was the one who killed Tony's parents. The truce is called off, and Tony fights both Cap and Bucky. Cap is victorious and says his cool line from the first movie.
I could do this all day.
Outside, Zemo has won in that he has set the heroes and the world against each other. He tries to commit suicide, but he's stopped by T'Challa, who now knows that he is the one who killed his father. Instead of revenge, Black Panther takes the man into custody. In the end, Tony has given Rhodey a high-tech brace to allow him to walk again. Cap busted his team out of prison because, they were in there for helping him, and they were there for like an hour maybe. Bucky has been put in stasis in Wakanda, where they hope to undo his brainwashing finally. Dr. Stephen Strange is a brilliant doctor, but he's also kind of a dick. After he was in a car accident, he uses all of his money and resources to try and repair his shattered hands. When nothing works, he searches out for the Ancient One, a mystical guru in Tibet. Both the Ancient One and Mordo teach him the mystical arts as well as Kung Fu. Sorcerer Cassius, who was a former student of the Ancient One, is trying to release Dormammu and the Dark Dimension upon the world. He believes that everyone will live forever then, because time has no meaning in the Dark Dimension, which is honestly the stupidest idea I've ever heard, even for a villain. After the Ancient One's death, Strange must stop Cassius. Working alongside Mordo and Wong, the three sorcerers try to defend the Sanctum Sanctorum in New York. Also, Strange gets a super sweet cloak. Eventually, Strange is forced to face Dormammu and use the Eye of Agamotto to trap him in a time loop until Dormammu agrees to leave the Earth alone. Strange wins, returning the Eye, and he becomes the leader of the New York Sanctorum alongside Wong. The Guardians are fighting some strange interdimensional creature for people known as the Sovereign. After defeating the creature, they are given their prize, Gamora's sister, Nebula. But when Rocket decides to steal some priceless batteries from the Sovereign, they then attack the Guardian ship, the Milano. After the team crash lands, they meet a mysterious man named Ego, who claims that he is Peter's father. He offers to take them back to his home planet, and Peter, Gamora, and Drax accept. Rocket and Baby Groot decide to stay behind and fix the ship and guard their prisoner. The Ravagers have been hired to capture the Guardians for the Sovereign and find Rocket and Groot on the planet. They take them into custody, but there's a mutiny when Yondu decides against going after Peter because he has a soft spot for the kid. Yondu essentially raised him after abducting him from Earth. As many kidnappers would do. Nebula reaches an agreement with the Ravagers, then heads off to find and kill Gamora. The two make up though. Working together, Yondu, Rocket, and Baby Groot eventually escape from the Ravagers and head back to save Peter and the others. Back on his planet, Ego reveals that he is a celestial being and that he has been searching for one of his children that shared his power. He also revealed that he is the one who gave Peter's mom the brain tumor that killed her because he loved her so much and she was a distraction. He goes on further to reveal that he has placed little bits of his being on other planets, and together they can activate them to consume the universe. Shockingly, Peter doesn't take this well and the two begin to fight. It's not easy though, because Ego is actually the planet, not just a man. The big battle ensues and the Guardians are victorious. Yondu dies trying to save Peter, and he realizes that the alien was really his daddy all along. Nebula heads off to kill Thanos herself, and Groot becomes a teenager. After his big team up with the Avengers in Civil War, young Peter Parker is back in New York and he spends his time watching clips of himself on his phone. He tries to be a friendly neighborhood, stopping small crimes, Spider-Man kind of guy, while also reaching out to Tony Stark, wondering when the next big team up will be. Adrian Domes was the owner of a salvage company who has a big job cleaning up New York after the Chitauri invasion, but he is muscled out by the Department of Damage Control. Deciding to keep some of the salvage tech, he begins creating weapons like a high-tech Vulture suit. When Spider-Man ends up fighting the Vulture, it doesn't go well, and he's saved by Iron Man, who tells him to focus on the small stuff and stay away from villains like Domes. Trying to prove himself, Peter begins to hunt down Vulture and his associates. This involves saving his friends from an elevator in the Washington Monument and also destroying the Staten Island ferry. When Tony has to save Peter again, he decides that he isn't ready for the responsibility of being a superhero and takes away the spider suit. Disappointed, Peter tries to continue with his life, and he asks his friend Liz to a school dance. Unfortunately, Liz's father is the Vulture, who figures out that Peter is Spider-Man and threatens him. Learning that the Vulture plans to hijack a secret shipment of high-tech weapons, Peter grabs an old Spidey suit, sweatsuit is more like it, and he confronts the villain. Nearly dying, he manages to defeat the Vulture and leave him for the police. Tony finally approaches Peter and offers him a new suit and a spot on the Avengers. Peter declines, wanting to instead focus on being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man like Tony always wanted. Thor is captured by Surtur. Through some monologuing, he learns that Odin is no longer on Asgard and that Surtur will soon bring about Ragnarok. Breaking free, Thor defeats Surtur and takes the crown, which will supposedly be the catalyst that will bring about the end of the universe. Returning to Asgard, he finds Odin there, but he's not acting like his usual self. After some threatening, Thor learns that Odin is actually Loki in disguise and that Loki has hidden Odin away on Earth. So the two travel to Earth to find Odin, but are waylaid by Doctor Strange, who doesn't want any magical problems while he's protecting the Earth. Thor and Strange come to an agreement, and Strange points Thor in the direction of Odin. Finding their father on a cliffside in Norway, he warns them that after he dies, their sister Hela will be set free and try to rule Asgard. Odin dies. Hela appears. As with most problems, Thor throws a hammer at her. She catches it, destroying it with her powerful magic. The two try and use the Bifrost to get away, but Hela catches them, throwing them out of the gateway. Hela arrives on Asgard, kills a bunch of people, and awakens an undead army. Heimdall manages to steal the sword that activates the Bifrost, trapping Hela on Asgard. He then hides away with the surviving Asgardians in the mountains. After being thrown out of the Bifrost, Thor lands on the planet Sakaar, a world surrounded by black holes that seems to be the galaxy's dumping ground. He's captured by Valkyrie and is brought before the Grand Master, where he discovers that Loki has also arrived on this planet and has been here for several weeks. Once his hair is cut, to be honest, he needed a trim, he meets Korg and Meek, and he's made to fight in the arena. Much to his surprise, his opponent is the Hulk, who has not been seen since the Sokovia fight with Ultron. After the two fight, they make up and begin to escape Sakaar. Hulk eventually turns into Bruce Banner, who is now shocked at how long it's been since he changed into the Hulk. Working alongside Valkyrie, who's now good, and Loki, who's still kind of evil, they escape and they return to Asgard. Working together, they manage to save the Asgardians and get them off-world. Thor fights Hela, loses an eye, making him like Odin, and he discovers that his true power never came from his magic hammer, it was inside him all along. Realizing that the only way to defeat Hela is to start Ragnarok, they set Surtur loose. As he destroys their home behind them, the remaining Asgardians fly off into space. The last we see the Asgardian ship, it's being taken over by a massive spaceship. Not good, people. T'Challa has taken over as King of Wakanda and continues to defend the country as Black Panther. Gaining word of Ulysses Klaue's location, he takes Okoye, his bodyguard and general, and his girlfriend/spy, Nakia, to South Korea to apprehend the criminal, who's trying to sell some stolen vibranium. After a massive chase scene, it's discovered that the buyers of the metal were actually CIA operatives who were trying to bring Klaue into custody as well. When Klaue is rescued by a man named Eric Stevens, T'Challa sees a royal ring around his neck. During the fight, CIA agent Ross takes a bullet, saving the life of Nakia, but the bullet is now lodged in his spine. The trio return to Wakanda with Ross, where they can heal. Confronting his advisors about the royal ring, T'Challa learns that his father had to kill his own brother for stealing weapons and vibranium. It turns out that he had a cousin that the family never accepted, and that cousin is Eric Stevens, who goes by the much cooler name Killmonger. After killing Klaue, Killmonger arrives in Wakanda to challenge T'Challa for his right to the throne. After defeating T'Challa in combat, he takes the throne and begins his plan of using Wakanda's advanced tech and weapons to rule the rest of the world. Nakia and Shuri, T'Challa's sister, Ross and Ramonda, T'Challa's mother, escape into the mountains where they find the isolated Jabari tribe, who have found T'Challa and stabilized him in the snow before he could die. Using the heart-shaped flower that gives Black Panther his powers, T'Challa is brought back to life. What follows is a massive fight between the forces that are loyal to Killmonger and those loyal to T'Challa. And in the end, T'Challa wins, of course. Nakia and T'Challa get together, and T'Challa decides to reveal the nation of Wakanda to the world and share their knowledge and technology. Bringing us to... Thanos has acquired the Power Stone after the destruction of Xandar. Then they ambush the remaining members of the Asgardians aboard their ship, beat the crap out of Thor and Hulk, and kill Loki, and they then take the Space Stone from the Tesseract, with that Loki couldn't help but steal in the end of Thor Ragnarok, and with the last ounce of power, Heimdall sends Hulk to Earth to warn of Thanos' coming. Thanos destroys the Asgardian ship, dispatching his lieutenants to Earth. Hulk crashes to Earth in the Sanctum Sanctorum, where he meets Doctor Strange and Wong, and he warns them about Thanos and his plan. Strange reaches out to Tony Stark, who arrives to find his surprised friend. Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian arrive with their ship, and they begin to fight with Tony and Doctor Strange for the Eye of Agamotto, which is actually the Time Stone. Passing by on a school bus, Peter Parker leaps into action as Spider-Man, joining the battle. Maw manages to capture Strange and leaves on his spaceship. Peter and Tony pursue, managing to suck Maw out into space, but they're now stuck off-world. Meanwhile, over in Germany, Scarlet Witch and Vision are on a date when they're attacked by Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, who are now after the Mind Stone in Vision's forehead. The pair are saved by Steve Rogers and his secret Avengers, Black Widow and Falcon. Vision thinks that they should destroy the Mind Stone, which would kill him, to prevent Thanos from getting it, but Steve thinks that Wakanda might have the technology to remove it before they have to destroy it. The Guardians, meanwhile, find the wreckage of the Asgardian ship and they collide with the body of Thor. To stop Thanos, Thor needs a weapon. Rocket and Groot decide to accompany him to where the dwarves can craft him a new weapon. The rest of the Guardians travel to nowhere to retrieve the Reality Stone from the Collector. Unfortunately, they arrive too late. Thanos is already there. He easily defeats the Guardians and takes Gamora captive. Gamora reveals the location of the Soul Stone to Thanos in order to stop the torture of her sister Nebula, who was captured when she tried to kill Thanos before. Traveling to the planet of Vormir, it's revealed that Red Skull has become the keeper of the Soul Stone after he was destroyed when he came in contact with the Tesseract all the way back in Captain America: First Avenger. The Soul Stone can only be acquired by sacrificing someone you love. Gamora laughs because Thanos doesn't love anything, but that's not true. And with tears in his eyes, he throws his daughter off a cliff. After a brief misunderstanding, when Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Strange arrive on the planet Titan, the group team up with the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy in a plan to get the gauntlet off of Thanos' hand. It almost works until Quill figures out that Thanos killed Gamora, and he pretty much doomed the entire universe. To save everyone, Strange gives up the Time Stone. Back on Earth, the Avengers and the armies of Wakanda have assembled to hold off Thanos' forces long enough for Shuri to remove the Mind Stone from Vision and destroy it. The good guys seem to be losing until Thor arrives with his new weapon, a raccoon and a tree. Thanos arrives and Scarlet Witch is forced to destroy Vision and the Mind Stone, barely slowing down. Thanos merely uses the Time Stone to undo Vision's death and then just kills him again by ripping the Mind Stone from his forehead. Poor guy. With all of the stones, Thanos stands victorious when out of nowhere from the sky, Thor heaves his new axe, the blade biting into Thanos' chest. But he isn't dead yet. Thanos snaps his fingers, teleporting away before Thor can do anything else. In the end, half of every living being in the universe disintegrates into dust. Before he goes, Nick Fury sends out a signal to Captain Marvel. With only a few days left on his house arrest following the events of Civil War, Scott Lang is trying to help Hank Pym and Hope Van Dyne locate their wife Mother in the quantum realm. They need parts to build a stable tunnel so that they can go to the quantum realm and bring her back. While trying to buy parts for the tunnel, Hope, who now has a wasp costume, is attacked by the Ghost, who has a strange phasing power that she gained from the quantum realm. The Ghost is revealed to be Ava Starr, the daughter of one of Hank's old partners, who was also experimenting with the quantum realm, and it is believed that she can be cured using quantum energy. Scott, Hope, and Hank manage to defeat the Ghost and retrieve Janet Van Dyne from the quantum realm. In the end, Scott is in the quantum realm to harvest quantum energy to help cure Ava. Suddenly, the radio goes silent, and it's revealed that Hank, Hope, and Janet have disintegrated after Thanos' snap. I hope you guys enjoyed a full recap, but this should bring you as best as we can up to the beginning of Captain Marvel, getting you ready for Captain Marvel and Endgame. If you want to get more awesome comic book knowledge, movie knowledge, video game knowledge, then consider subscribing right here to the Comic Storian channel, where we can do all of that for you. And don't forget, guys, you can also give this video a like, telling me, Benny, we want more movie videos. Anyway, if you stuck it out all the way to the end, you're a true superhero. I need to go drink a ton of water because I am exhausted. I did that all in one take if you didn't know. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.